It's kind of like trying to surf when the ocean is completely flat.
Oh, yeah. The absolute worst feeling.
Right. I mean, you can have the absolute best custom board on the market. You can have flawless technique, like an Olympic level training regimen, and just perfect balance.
But if there are no waves, you're not going anywhere.
Exactly. You paddle out there, the water is like glass, and you just sit there. The sun is beating down on you. Your arms are aching from all that paddling, and you are literally going absolutely nowhere.
Because without the wave, I mean, you are just a person sitting on a piece of fiberglass.
Right.
You're just burning calories and getting totally exhausted.
And that feeling of frantic paddling, that really frustrating realization that you cannot manufacture the wave yourself, is the exact core of our deep dive today.
It really is.
Welcome to this exploration into the source material. Today, we are looking at a really profound philosophical text. It was written in November 2022 by an author named Swefeng.
Yeah, and it's titled The Secret of Borrowing Strength from Heaven's Timing.
Right. And the mission for you, listening to us right now, is to explore how to actually recognize and, align with the massive unseen rhythms of the universe.
Which is so needed right now.
It really is. The goal here is to avoid that modern burnout, to find a way to navigate life where you aren't constantly swimming against the current, just wondering why every single step feels like this monumental struggle.
Well, and it's a framework that fundamentally challenges our modern obsession with constant output. Like, it asks us to completely reevaluate our relationship with effort and patience and just the environment around us.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The author sets the stage early on by pulling a foundational quote from a classic piece of literature. It's called The Rhapsody on Dwelling in the Mountains.
Oh, that's a great quote.
Yeah, let me read it here. It goes, "When the timing of the heavens is off, the sun and moon lack radiance. When the timing of the earth is off, plants do not thrive.
Right.
When the timing of water is off, waves are not calm. And when the timing for people is off, fortune cannot flow."
So what Swifting is establishing with that quote is this overarching concept of heaven's timing.
And we should clarify, he isn't talking about astrology or magic here, right?
No, not at all. He is describing a very subtle, inescapable structural mechanism of reality. It's basically an environmental condition that is entirely beyond human negotiation.
Can't argue with it.
Exactly. The central thesis we are exploring today is that aligning with this timing brings smooth progress, like things naturally respond and flourish.
But opposing it brings instant friction.
Yeah, friction, stagnation, difficulty. If the moment passes, the phenomenon just withers.
So the success of your personal endeavors isn't solely a metric of your intelligence or your daily grind. It is heavily dictated by whether you are moving with the rhythmic current of the world or if you're trying to, swim up a waterfall.
Which is exhausting.
Extremely. And that immediately brings us to a massive, very uncomfortable societal friction point.
I know where you're going with this.
Right. Because if we accept that we need this proverbial wave to surf, if we are truly that dependent on external timing, what happens to the myth of the self-made hero?
Yeah, that totally shatters the modern ethos.
It does, because our whole culture is built on the idea of the person who forces their own destiny, the one who bends the universe to their will through sheer grit.
Well, the text deconstructs that completely. I mean, we are all familiar with the proverb, times create heroes.
Yeah.
But Zwefeng takes that phrase and aggressively expands its scope. He argues that these opportune moments in history, they don't just forge heroes.
What else do they create?
The exact same mechanism creates the ultra-wealthy, the revered experts, the celebrated scholars. But, and this is more provocative, the text emphasizes that these moments also create tyrants and villains.
Wow. Okay, so it goes both ways.
It does. The sweeping changes in society, the disasters, the sudden windfalls, they are all birthed by this timing. Fame and infamy alike are just products of the environment opening a door for a specific type of person.
That really reframes the entire landscape of human impact. And there's this contrast the author sets up that I found incredibly striking.
Oh, about the ignorant person.
Yes. He defines an ignorant person not as someone lacking intelligence, but as someone who fails to read the room of the universe, someone who defies heaven's timing.
Right, they just push forward blindly.
Yeah, you could possess unbelievable knowledge, you could have a world-changing vision, but if you act when the timing is closed, your abilities are completely stifled.
It's basically like you are trying to plant seeds in the dead of winter.
Yes, perfect analogy.
The soil is frozen. It doesn't matter if you have the most genetically perfect seeds in human history, nothing is going to sprout.
But then the text contrasts that genius in winter with a petty individual. It argues that someone who is petty or seemingly undeserving might find themselves living in absolute luxury, like driving luxury cars and living in grand villas.
Just because they happen to align with heaven's timing.
Exactly. And I have to admit, I get a little stuck on this. Because if the wind determines everything to the point where a terrible person can succeed just by standing in the right breeze, why bother building the surfboard at all?
That's a fair question.
Right. Why develop talent or morality if it's all just fatalistic luck?
So what's fascinating here is how the text anticipates that exact friction. It clarifies that this isn't about blind luck overriding talent. It's about how talent is shaped and activated by the times.
Okay, so talent still matters.
Absolutely. The text never claims talent is useless. It argues that without favorable conditions, talent is completely dormant. The author explicitly pushes back against the modern misconception that heroes create their own opportunities from thin air.
Because they need the environment to cooperate.
Right. Without the aid of favorable timing, someone with immense ambition and a really rebellious drive might just appear to society as a dangerous thug.
Oh, because their drive has no constructive outlet, so it just becomes destructive.
Exactly that. But when the social timing shifts, say a revolution happens or there's a massive paradigm shift in technology, that exact same aggressive, disruptive drive suddenly makes them a visionary hero.
So the internal traits didn't change at all.
No, the environment changed how those traits were utilized and perceived.
That makes a lot of sense. And Shufeng uses a pretty stark historical example here to illustrate this frozen soil concept.
Yes, he does.
And real quick, we should explicitly pause here just to impartially state that we are not endorsing any political viewpoints regarding the Cultural Revolution.
Yeah, definitely. We're strictly analyzing how the author uses this historical period to illustrate his point.
Right, just looking at it structurally. So he points out that during the 10 years of the Cultural Revolution, there were 0 private entrepreneurs.
It is a purely structural observation. It wasn't that the population suddenly, lacked people with a natural aptitude for commerce or risk-taking.
Right, those people didn't just vanish.
Exactly, they still existed.
Right.
But the social timing, the overarching environment, rendered that specific manifestation of talent completely impossible. The door was bolted shut.
But then when the timing shifted years later...
Those latent talents suddenly exploded into the open.
Oh, okay, I see the mechanics of that now. The surfboard doesn't matter without the wave, but when the wave comes, you still need to know how to ride the board.
That's a great way to put it.
So if we are this dependent on these external conditions, these societal stimulants, we need to understand how the timing actually functions. Are we dealing with something entirely random, or is there like an architecture to it?
The author provides a very rigid architecture, actually. He breaks it down into 2 distinct categories: natural timing and social timing.
Okay, let's start with natural timing.
Natural timing is the macro cycle of the physical world. The transition from spring to summer to autumn to winter. It is absolute and unyielding.
You literally have no choice but to follow it.
Exactly. You cannot negotiate with winter to be 70 degrees. Your only option is to adapt your behavior and put on a coat.
You either align with the physical reality or you freeze. There's really no debating it.
But social timing, on the other hand, is significantly more complex because it involves the aggregate behavior of humanity.
Which is always messy.
Very. According to the text, social timing is governed by vast cycles of cause and effect. It operates on a mechanism of accumulation, leading to what we can visualize as a critical threshold.
Let's unpack that because he uses the term karma here in the text, and I want to make sure we don't just brush past that as some mystical buzzword. How does this critical threshold actually work mechanically?
Good point. In this context, think of karma not as supernatural retribution, but as the literal accumulation of societal actions.
Okay.
Imagine snow falling on a mountainside. A single snowflake doesn't do much. 1,000 snowflakes don't do much. People are making tiny individual choices every day. But as negative, destructive, or highly chaotic actions accumulate, they build up on that mountain.
The snow gets heavier.
Right. And eventually, they hit a critical threshold, a breaking point. When that happens, the social timing violently turns adverse. Society faces severe friction, upheaval, or hardship. The avalanche triggers.
Wow. Okay. So it's the tipping point of collective human behavior.
Yes. And conversely, when positive efforts, constructive systems, and aligned actions accumulate and surpass their own threshold, the timing flips to become favorable.
The environment becomes conducive to growth again.
Exactly. The scales tip based on the aggregate weight of cause and effect.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The text doesn't just leave this as an abstract theory of society. It divides these shifts into major opportune moments and minor opportune moments.
Right, massive macro shifts and localized micro shifts.
And to illustrate this, the author points to some very modern, visceral examples. For a major global opportune moment, the text points to the universal use of masks a few years ago.
It is huge.
Yeah, that is a macro event that alters the baseline behavior of the entire human species simultaneously. And for a minor regional moment, he looks at the invasion of Ukraine, causing citizens to rapidly migrate and become refugees.
It sweeps people up
It
instantly.
really does. And once again, we have to impartially report these examples. We are explicitly stating that we are not taking any left-wing or right-wing political sides on global mask mandates or the Ukraine conflict.
We are merely conveying the original text's illustration here.
Exactly. Just showing how massive global and regional events sweep individuals up in their currents. But looking at it purely structurally, you can see the sheer mechanical force of social timing at play.
Oh, absolutely. What those examples demonstrate is the absolute fragility of individual planning in the face of macro social timing.
It just wipes out your plans.
Completely.
Yeah.
If you are a citizen in a region where a minor social timing event like a conflict triggers your personal 5-year plan, your career trajectory, your daily routine, it all evaporates instantly.
The social timing has shifted, and you are now forced to navigate an entirely new reality.
The current has taken you.
Which brings us to arguably the most vital part of this deep dive. If we are floating in an ocean where these massive currents of cause and effect can shift the entire landscape, how is an individual supposed to operate?
Yeah, what's the practical application?
Right. What is the strategy for you, the listener, to navigate this without just feeling entirely powerless?
Well, the foundational strategy the text offers starts with a very specific definition of humility.
Humility, okay.
Yeah, but in this framework, humility is equated directly to having a reverence for nature and timing. It isn't just about being polite or self-effacing. It's an advanced form of environmental awareness.
Oh, I like that. It's almost like a data processing mechanism. You are stepping back to read the room before acting.
Exactly that. The person who understands the secret of seizing timing acts with profound humility because they know they aren't the ones generating the power.
They aren't making the wave.
Right. Arrogant individuals, those who rely exclusively on their own talents and assume they can force the world to comply with their timeline, they inevitably shatter against the rocks.
They are trying to swim against a riptide.
They exhaust themselves and eventually drown in frustration because they refuse to acknowledge the current.
So how do we know when to swim and when to float? The author actually built out a fascinating twofold strategy here. It's almost a decision matrix for dealing with social timing.
Let's walk through it.
Okay, let's look at the first scenario. What are you supposed to do when the current social timing conflicts directly with your nature? Like when the world is actively hostile to your specific talents or your goals?
The text's directive is blunt. Conceal your talents, bide your time.
Just wait it out.
Pretty much. If the social timing is against you, showing off your abilities or pushing your agenda will only bring you exhaustion, friction, or direct disaster. You must wait.
Let's translate that to a modern context. If you work in an industry that is fundamentally contracting due to economic shifts, trying to launch a hyper-aggressive startup in that exact space is fighting the timing.
You will just burn through your capital and your mental health.
Right. Concealing your talents doesn't mean giving up, though. It means recognizing the winter. You go inward, you study, you prepare, you cultivate your roots, but you don't try to force the harvest when there's frost on the ground.
I love that framing.
Hmm.
But then we look at the second scenario in the Matrix.
Yeah.
What do you do when social timing finally aligns with your nature?
When the winter thaws and the wave finally swells,
The text flips entirely. It says you go all out.
you deploy everything you have been cultivating.
Yes. The author urges you not to lose the opportunity to fully realize your abilities because, and this is a very sobering warning, such chances may never return in your lifetime.
Wow, that is sobering.
When the timing is favorable, that is the moment for maximum exertion. That is when you paddle hard and catch the wave.
This is the core concept of borrowing strength. You are not generating the momentum from zero. You are recognizing an existing momentum and hitching your wagon to it.
And the text uses a great natural example here. Migratory birds.
Oh, right.
They don't try to fight the winter cold through sheer willpower, They borrow the immense power of the changing seasons to glide thousands of miles.
They align their internal biological drive with the external environmental shift.
Exactly. And the author also brings this back to human endeavors. We mentioned private entrepreneurs rising by borrowing the strength of economic shifts earlier.
Right.
The text also looks at something as specific as going abroad to study or start a business. That personal achievement is only possible with the underlying support of favorable social timing.
And the author poses a brilliant rhetorical question to hammer this home. He asks, if social timing dictates that a country's borders are closed, how can you possibly fulfill your burning desire to go abroad?
Well, you can't.
Exactly. You could be the most brilliant scholar on the planet with fully funded grants and perfect paperwork, but if the macro social timing has locked the borders, your talent cannot physically put you on that airplane.
You are entirely dependent on the timing being open. Your individual agency only functions within the parameters set by the social timing.
To capture this delicate, almost paradoxical balance of being completely powerless against the environment but incredibly powerful when writing it, the author shares a really beautiful piece of poetic imagery.
The willow catkin.
Yes. For anyone who doesn't know, a catkin is that soft, incredibly light, fluffy seed cluster that blows off willow trees in the spring.
It's a masterpiece of a metaphor for this entire philosophy.
The poem goes, in countless threads and fibers, its essence remains unchanged. Let it gather and disperse as it may, the willow catkin still gracefully sways. Don't mock the fleeting beauty of spring's soft fluff, for it has no roots yet, endures the gusty stuff. With a favorable wind as my guide, I ascend high and bright, riding on good fortune, soaring to great heights.
The sheer brilliance of the catkin metaphor is that it possesses absolutely no internal engine. It has no roots to draw power from the earth.
It cannot launch itself into the sky through its own effort.
Right. If the air is still, it just sits on the ground. But when the favorable wind arrives, it doesn't resist. It doesn't try to dictate the direction.
It just goes with it.
It borrows that massive atmospheric strength and ascends to heights that a deeply rooted, incredibly strong oak tree could never reach.
It achieves maximum elevation through maximum alignment, not maximum effort.
That's a great summary.
So what does this all mean for you? As we synthesize everything in this deep dive, the author leaves us with some very pragmatic advice for daily life. He basically says, when the sky is clear, dry the grass.
Meaning, when the environment provides the heat, that is the exact moment to do the work that requires heat.
Yeah, when the iron is hot, strike it.
And he also mentions when you encounter noble people who can elevate your path, which the text notes is a rare alignment of timing in itself, you need to show them deep respect.
So the underlying urgency here is that you must strictly adhere to good timing when it finally arrives. You must act decisively.
Why? Because missing these fleeting moments, failing to recognize the wave when it is right underneath you, leads to profound regret and disappointment.
You're squandering the very environment your talent requires to bloom.
Exactly. It's all about hyper-awareness.
It really is. And as a final thought to leave you with, the text drops a really profound detail early on that we wanted to bring back here.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
The author notes that humans actually possess an innate ability to perceive the subtleties of heaven's timing.
We have a built-in sensor for it.
We do. We can feel in our gut when a project is flowing naturally, and we can feel that deep grinding friction when something is being artificially forced.
And if that is true, if our ability to sense the right time to act, the right time to sprint, and the right time to rest is actually a built-in biological and spiritual feature look at the modern world we live in.
It's totally disconnected from that.
Completely. We are surrounded by a relentless hustle culture that demands we treat every single day like it's the middle of summer. We are told to grind, to force outcomes, and to manufacture our own waves 365 days a year, regardless of the macro environment or our internal state.
It makes you wonder how much of our modern anxiety, our collective exhaustion, and our burnout is simply the psychological toll of ignoring that innate intuition.
That constant friction.
Right. We are culturally conditioned to fight the timing, to rev our engines in a vacuum, completely ignoring the fact that it might just be winter.
We refuse to accept that the tide is just out.
Exactly. Are we burning ourselves out because we're frantically paddling on a flat ocean? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a great conversation.
It has. Take a look around you this week. Pay attention to your own internal sensors. Where are you feeling deep friction and where are you feeling natural momentum? Stop exhausting yourself trying to control the massive ocean and start looking for the favorable winds in your own life. Catch you next time.